Arsenal lost to Aston Villa, but I think if you were told before the game Arsenal are going to lose it, you'd probably have thought, well, okay, maybe we struggled to deal with Unai Emery and his press, and we struggled to get into our flow. That wasn't this kind of game. So there are a lot of positives to actually take from the performance, but why did Arsenal fall short? That's what I want to look at in today's Tactical Insight. Graham was meant to be here, but UK transport, it is what it is. He couldn't make it in, but he has sent some amazing notes, and we're going to go through them. Hopefully I'll do them justice. Let's go through it. Why did Arsenal fail to punish an Aston Villa side that were actually quite open? Now, before Villa fans start going, well, hold on, 2 wins in a week against City and Arsenal, that's pretty good. It is, and you've got to give them credit. I think the way they played the game against City was not the way they played against Arsenal. I like to think we can take credit from that because we played well enough to somewhat take control of the game. I don't like saying we controlled a game we didn't win or were never winning at one point. But Arsenal was certainly the more dominant side, and Villa, in the words of Emi Martinez, had to suffer against Arsenal, whereas they did do against City something he hasn't seen any side do to City. And I think that's such a very fair reflection from the former Arsenal goalkeeper. So let's go into the match stats and see what they're telling us about this game. 12 shots for Arsenal, 2 Villa's 10, 3 on target each, 61% of the ball, more passes, and a better XG of 1.58 to 0.55. We're going to put some of these into context in a little bit. Arsenal with 35 final third entries to their 29, more deep touches, more zone 14 touches, and a field tilt. I know not everyone loves that stat, but it does give some context at times. 57.5% for Arsenal. And defensive stats, listen, they only tackled us once more than we tackled them, but they were there for interceptions, clearances, and we pressed them very well. 7.3 passes per defensive action. That is something we're going to look at in a little bit. Now, I've got some other stats I just want to read out because, again, there's some good context. Defensively, we were very solid. 10 shots we allowed against Villa. That's their second lowest this season and their lowest at home. Their 0.55 expected goals is also Villa's lowest of the season. They didn't have a single big chance. And their 15 touches in the box with 3 completed dribbles, both Villa's lowest completed tallies for those particular stats this season. So it tells you that Arsenal did a lot defensively that they could be very, very happy with. But we did concede a goal very early, and this set the tone for the game, perhaps. Let's have a little look at that goal and what went wrong. We've got the 11s there. We'll come back to that in a sec. Right, here we go. So it's important to mention that Villa's got a really, really good team goal. There's a lot of build-up before you get to this point, and I do want to give that credit because it's very easy to always point at everything we did wrong. Arsenal, you should have done this, you should have done that, Rice should have been better there, White should have done this, Gabriel should have done that, Zinni should have done that. But let's also give credit to what Villa did, which was very, very good in the build-up. So we get ourselves into this position where, I say we, Villa get themselves into this position. I'm just saying we are going from this position here on the tactical pad. Bailey's got the ball and he rolls it into Kamara. Now, Arsenal have actually started quite well. I think people forget that in that first 2-3 minutes, Arsenal, I think, had a shot where Martinelli put it to the back post of Saka. We could have perhaps done a little bit better. And Arsenal actually had got a decent foothold in the game for 2-3 minutes. Then it swung for the next 7-8 minutes where Villa were the better team and they capitalised on it. So Bailey gives it back to Kamara. But I want you to just look at the positions of all these players here for a sec, which we'll highlight in red. White, you got Saliba and Watkins there. You got McGinn in quite a lot of space here. But in fairness, I think Arsenal have an eye on it, and you'll know this from White and him tracking McGinn's run in a sec. So Bailey rolls off to Kamara, and Arsenal are clearly trying to press into this area here, but they do well to come out of it. Plays it to Kamara, who gives it into Tielemans, who's found that pocket, and Bailey has run off Martinelli, Havertz and Zinchenko and found himself on a one-on-one with Gabriel. Now at this point, Watkins is running slightly wide and Saliba's going with him, and White is tracking McGinn's run, to be fair, because I gave White some stick. You can see it's all building up here. I gave White some stick, but in fairness, you can see he's tracking McGinn all the way. Bailey fronts up Gabriel, Rice has come across, Zinchenko is doing his best to try and get back as well. He then goes around the outside and cuts it back to McGinn, who then puts it into the back of the net. But if we just go back a few frames, let's just watch White here. He does follow McGinn into the box, and what you end up with is a back four of Saliba at right back, White and Rice at centre back, and Gabriel at left back. So in fairness, they've got back into a back four shape. Can we illustrate it? Yeah, we can actually. Here we go. They do get back into a back four shape, And so actually, as well as Villa did in the build-up to that goal, I actually think Arsenal are doing their defending pretty well up to this point. Now, could Havertz and Martinelli done better higher up the pitch? Did Zinchenko kind of leave Gabriel exposed? But they cover for each other. That's the point, right? You go to press, sometimes you get played out of it. A good team like Villa can do that, so you cover for each other. But it's this bit here where Bailey goes around the outside and cuts it back to McGinn. Now here, where McGinn has the ball, in my opinion, maybe I'm being harsh, I think White should be able to get a block on McGinn there. I don't think it's too much to ask. This isn't Lionel Messi. I'm not saying you have to be Lionel Messi, but it's not, nor is it some 6'4" brute of a striker who's just really strong and muscles you out the way and works a shot. This is just McGinn being quite quick with his thinking, but also there was nothing else he could have done. He wasn't going to take the touch onto his right foot. He wasn't going to, he might have taken a touch and laid it off, but that's even more reason for White to be tight to him. I don't think he gets tight enough. And could Raya do a little bit better? I don't know. People have asked that question. It's hard to know because he's very close to goal, right? And White's in his way. So it's hard to know whether Raya could have done much better. I definitely think White probably could have. But I'd love to know what your thoughts in the comment section are. I'll be going through them as Graham always does as well. Could White have done a little bit better on that goal? I was critical of his part to play in the Luton goal. This feels a bit too easy, but you've got to give Aston Villa credit for their part to play in it as well. Now, after that moment, and you sort of sat there thinking, you'll see me on the watch along, I was sat there going, okay, this is going to be a long day because we have not started well. And at least at Newcastle, where we kind of defended somewhat valiantly, but lost 1-0, decisions didn't go our way. At least with that, you could say, well, we came through the first half, we settled well. This was an early goal, and you're kind of wondering, well, what's going to happen here? Arsenal did actually go and do a couple of things. I'm going to take you back to the tactical pad. I actually thought they deployed a very, very decent press. I think when they had the ball, Villa, and they were building out something like this, I mean, you know, I'm sort of roughly speaking, but Arsenal were very, very aggressive, whether it was Ødegaard pressing and then Rice sitting off, Martinelli, Saka going all the way across. We move everyone up the pitch. We talk about this sort of, you know, the battles that everyone was involved in. Sometimes Zinchenko would press inside and Gabriel would be keeping an eye on Bailey a little bit man-to-man. So Arsenal did press very aggressively and did try and force them into errors. Not only did they try, they succeeded. They absolutely forced, because they were being quite stubborn, Villa. So this ball would go out to Pau Torres here. Ødegaard would press, and every time they tried to go in, Rice was winning the ball, and we were finding ourselves in positions around this area of the pitch. Well, let's drop, I'm exaggerating by saying we were quite that close to goal. But we did find ourselves, you know, having moments where, if I just move everyone back a little bit, we almost had sort of 3-on-2s or 4-on-3s or whatever, because we pressed so well high up the pitch and we didn't kill them. We didn't take that opportunity where the space opened up to actually punish them for what was quite poor playing out the back. And Arsenal were getting a foothold in this game, and that's why I've got a slight frustration. Where I actually admire Emery and Aston Villa in a lot of ways, I didn't feel this was a masterclass, and I felt that Arsenal had the opportunity to punish them for that. Now, some stats that prove this. Look at Arsenal's front five. 9 shots across the whole front five. That includes Havertz and Ødegaard with the front 3. Only 3 of them were on target. 1.1 XG across the front 5. Only 3 big chances in the game. Well, I say only 3. I mean, 3 is a decent amount. You should probably take them. 6 key passes. Pass into the box from the front 5. Only 11. No goals, no assists. So while there's kind of criticism of the team in general, you know, for losing at Villa, and I can kind of understand why, you've got to look at the front 5 and think, well, the opportunities were there for you guys to go and really put them to the sword and punish them for the mistakes they made. Now, without going too far, I know people will think this is perhaps a little bit over the top, but it's got me wondering whether Mikel Arteta and his tactics perhaps don't get the best out of our wingers in particular, but some of the forwards and some of the talent we have. Now, I know that I'm going to put a very balanced case here, the for, the against and everything. But this was sparked by a really great thread of tweets I saw from Aaron Catterson-Reed, at Read the Game. Go check him out on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Let me read him out. He says, if I'm Gabriel Martinelli, I'd be getting pretty fed up. He is statistically and by the eye Arsenal's best finisher, yet he's being utilised as a wide midfielder, averaging less shots per 90 than Casemiro, Dwight McNeil and Alex Iwobi. He is a forward, get him closer to goal. If he was playing at Klopp's Liverpool, he would be averaging 4 shots per game. Nunes currently averages 4.64 per 90. Martinelli with 2.05, the 58th most in the league. Now that, and I will say, whenever I come here and do, whether it's an infocus, a tactical insight, and I present evidence, if it's my thoughts and my insight and my research, I'll present it that way. But what I'm about to present now is very much sparked by what Aaron has tweeted here. It's a really kind of great point that I hadn't really thought about. And look, there's a lot of credit to give Arteta for the work he's done with the wingers, but in this particular season, I think you could argue that some of the tactics we're deploying, the way we play, is maybe stifling the likes of Saka and Martinelli. Let me go through it. So I've got here the Premier League wingers compared, or some Premier League wingers compared, FBref key stats per 90. We've got Martinelli, Diaz, Doku, Rashford, Sterling and Johnson, because they typically play out on the left, is why I've gone for them. Sterling I know has played out on the right at times or whatever. But if you look at goals per 90, Martinelli, only Johnson and Rashford have less, but there's not that much in it between Martinelli and Rashford, who's apparently having a terrible season. He's nowhere near Diaz, well I say nowhere near, but Diaz was 0.29, Doku 0.26, Sterling was 0.36, all doing better than Martinelli. Again, with shots per 90, Diaz does better, Doku does better, Rashford does better, Johnson does better, only Sterling with less shots per 90 than Martinelli. XG 0.16. It's less than Diaz, it's slightly more than Doku, it's less than Rashford, it's less than Sterling, and it's less than Johnson. That tells you the quality of shot he is getting away, Martinelli, that actually they're not particularly high XG chances, they're not particularly great opportunities where you're going, Martinelli should definitely bury that. Look what he did against Wolves the other day, where he burst through the pitch, but he did really well to get a shot out of that, and look at the work he had to put in just to get into that area. And there's lots of others. You can hit pause if you want to look at these, but again, touches in the penalty area, slightly better than the likes of Diaz and Rashford, but worse than Sterling, worse than worse than Doku, and shot creating actions, not particularly high either. The point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of evidence that the likes of Martinelli and Saka, but we'll get on Saka in a bit, are actually struggling to benefit massively from Arsenal's style of play this season, where last season we were blistering and Ødegaard got 15 league goals, I think Saka got 15 league goals, Martinelli did, or at least got near it. It felt like their output was so high, and we were playing with these two blistering wingers who made Gary Neville's team of the season at the end of the year, despite not winning the title. And this season we don't have that from our two wingers, and you've got to kind of ask why. So we talked about whether this is a tactical thing, whether this is a style of play thing. Well, there's a couple of things I do want to show. Firstly, the tactical pad. Now let's get back to, let's reset the tactical pad here. Right. First and foremost in this game, Arsenal, and they have done all season, they play with their wingers really, really high and wide. If we just move Villa up the pitch into a somewhat more defensive shape, Martinelli, Saka play high and wide, and it leaves space for Ødegaard and Havertz. Rice comes inside, there's Zinchenko, and there's your back three. But the thing I want to say about this from an Arsenal perspective is I can understand why we play with really high and wide wingers. I can totally understand that. But when you've got the likes of, Martinelli, Saka really high and wide, they do it to stretch the pitch, so that Digne and Konsa are forced to come across. Maybe they get doubled up on because McGinn and Bailey might get back. And then that should really give Ødegaard, Havertz and Jesus a lot of space to have fun and basically outnumber Luiz and Kamara. Maybe Tielemans drops in, but they're still going to have a lot of space centrally. The thing about this game, though, is that Villa was stretched anyway. Villa were very, very open. So they went to press. They didn't double up on Martinelli and Saka. And actually, they weren't really getting out to them too quickly. There was a lot of space. If we just move Villa up the pitch a little bit more, there's a lot of space for them to attack in this area of the pitch right here. These sort of, in fact, if we just get rid of that and do it again, without that, there we go. These out-to-win runs from Martinelli and Saka were on all game. In fact, they each had one. Martinelli got in behind, and when Martinez came out, he basically made a little bit of a mess of the chance because he tried to lift it over him, and then, basically got to lift it into the back of the net. Oh, what's going on here? You got to lift it into the back of the net, or you lift it enough so you can get round and put it into the back of the net. But that wasn't the only opportunity. When Rice had the ball in this area of the pitch, Saka, he's offside when he makes that run, but if he times it better, he's in. Martinez comes out and he goes around and puts it into the back of the net. There were moments for Saka and Martinelli to get behind that back four, and whether it was not making the most of it when they did, or an offside run, not timing it right, they were basically wasted opportunities that you're looking at and you're going, come on, front five, you've got to do better. But this is where I want to present a little bit of evidence to suggest that this is slightly unfair to kind of blame Martinelli and Saka, because even though let me just say, for everything I've just said up till now, this isn't a slight on Martinelli or Saka or them not doing enough. I wonder whether this is a tactical thing in Mikel Arteta's system. So let's just go back, because I want to show you some other stuff. Can I really blame Saka and Martinelli for not being killers, where for so much of the football we play, they're not really expected to exploit space that much? Have a little look at this from the analysts. Style of play. Arsenal much nearer to Man City in the slow and intricate side of things, where you look at direct speed up on the left and you look at passes per sequence. Arsenal and Brighton much nearer Man City, where you look at Liverpool, much more direct speed, they're much faster, as are Manchester United. Everton, very direct, far less pass sequences in their style of play, can be very direct as well. Arsenal, not so much. So it's very difficult where you're used to playing against perhaps low blocks, and you're used to playing against teams where you've got to build up through them, you'll be quite intricate, you've got to take on fullbacks a lot. Saka and Martinelli didn't have to do a lot of that. They had to time their runs and try and attack that space, and we didn't do that anywhere near enough. I also want to show you these two graphics where you look at direct speed and direct attacks from the analyst. And if you look at the direct speed, for example, Arsenal, the third slowest, with Burnley and Manchester City, only the two slower teams in terms of their attacks, how quickly we get to goal. Look at the likes of Liverpool are fourth, Man United are fifth. And look, this doesn't mean you have to play this way. Treble winners are the slowest. But the fact that Arsenal don't have that ability to go from one end of the pitch to the other is a little bit of a shame. You can see it with the number of direct attacks we've had as well. We're ranking as one of the lowest. We are not able to just kill teams when that space opens up. Now, I did say that I wanted to be balanced in all this, because I can ask the question, is Arteta limiting our wingers? Well, maybe in this way. But have a look at some of Saka's numbers here. 8 goals, 12 assists in all competitions. Salah has 14 goals and 8 assists in all competitions. He's 2 goals and assists shy of Mo Salah, Premier League legend, Liverpool legend, who's in brilliant form, arguably player of the season at the moment in the Premier League. He's 2 shy of his goal contributions in all competitions, and that includes Champions League football that Saka's playing. Salah can't even say that, which is sort of a strange thing to say, because Liverpool are normally in it. So Saka's output has been brilliant. While Martinelli's falling short a little bit, Saka's output has been brilliant, but does he look on the eye as exciting as last season? Perhaps not. So you compile all of that, and then this quote from Pep Guardiola in November 2017, where he said, "I think Raheem is enjoying scoring goals. He's not scared. He's not afraid to take a risk. And now we're seeing how good it is to score goals. Now he's more focused on that. Mikel Arteta is working many hours and days after training specifically about the last action on the pitch, that control in the last moment to make the right movement in the final 3 or 4 metres. Pep Guardiola said it there, and I wanted to give you the Pep Guardiola evidence of it, as well as other people have said it, whether it be reports, people who are following what Man City and Arteta were doing over all those years. Arteta has worked brilliantly with wingers before, Martinelli and Saka at Arsenal, Raheem Sterling, Leroy Sané at Man City. He is a master of working with wingers and getting the most out of them. We saw it last season with us as well. So why is it that, well, 2 things. A, why is it that we look so blunt compared to last season in wider areas? But crucially, should we be questioning Mikel Arteta when he's actually got a real track record of showing that he knows what he's doing with wide players as well? I had to ask that question. I had to ask all that and go through all that detail, because I do think there are opportunities to kill Villa in that situation, and we didn't. And you wonder whether it's Mikel Arteta and tactically how we're set up, or whether the players, Martinelli, Saka, should be doing more when they get in those areas. Hard to say they should be doing more when you look at the output from the likes of Bukayo Saka, when you look at the work rate of Martinelli. Despite the output not being there that season, he works so incredibly hard, and he always feels like our most dangerous player on the pitch, but something isn't quite right and making sense there, in my opinion. Now, we're sort of getting to the end of the show. I did want to touch on something that Graham raised I thought was interesting. I'm just going to bring up again the starting 11s here on the tactical pad. He asked whether we perhaps should have played in a double pivot in this game. Now, that feels a little harsh to say, because Kai Havertz in particular, I thought was the better of the front five in this game. So to say he should have come out actually feels a little bit harsh. But there is a good reason as to why you might want a double pivot in this game. And if we just stretch out the pitch a little bit and get Arsenal into their shape. If we take Havertz out this team and we bring in Jorginho, and you basically go with a shape, something like that, basically Ødegaard playing off Jesus and getting much more into those 10 spaces. I know I said in a video more recently that he's a number 8, but if you get him into those more 10 spaces in this game, I think what you could have had in this game in particular, in fact, if we just swap Jorginho and Rice, and this might have prevented the first goal, as Graham actually mentioned in his notes when we were talking about this game. What we often see is the 8 coming forward, so that you get that sort of front 5. Let's move them like that. That's a better way to show it. And Zinni coming into that space. But what I sort of wonder is whether you could have had a situation, which we've seen it before, I'm not just making this up, we've actually seen Arsenal do this tactically this season, where you could have actually Rice sitting with Jorginho and still playing as a 6 to try to give Arsenal control and make sure that we don't get opened up, but Zinni floating in these spaces. And I've just done a whole kind of monologue on, you know, where actually we could have gotten to those spaces and been a lot better in those half spaces, getting our wingers through on goal. Zinchenko's got the passing ability to do that, and we saw that at times in the game against Villa. Could we have had Zinni inverting all the way from left back into this space and actually cause Villa a lot more problems? I do wonder that, because, you know, then when the kind of moment happens where we're pressing up the pitch, perhaps Rice gets across and you get your centre-backs in position to deal with that goal. Maybe you don't have to worry about Zinchenko getting back, which we know he struggles to do at times, and you could have Zinni playmaking in that area of the pitch there. Udogie and Pedro Porro are doing it for Tottenham right now, I hate to say it, but they're getting to those areas of the pitch, and I'm not really sure why Arsenal couldn't do a similar thing with Zinchenko, especially because we've seen Tomiyasu getting forward in that area so that Rice can play nearer to Jorginho. Look, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Ultimately, we had enough chances, so you've got to say tactically Arteta probably got a lot of it right, but I do feel like there were opportunities just to maximise kind of control of the middle of the pitch with Jorginho Rice in there, but also getting our best passes of the ball into those areas so we could really punish Villa for how high line they were playing throughout the game. Now, even though he's not here, he did send me his closing stats, and I do think we need to go through them. Graham, thank you so much for sending these. Martin Ødegaard made his 100th Premier League appearance for Arsenal. Credit to him, man, wearing the armband. I don't think he was particularly great in the game, if I'm honest. Missed 2 really big chances, but he's done when he's come into the club, you know, we were lacking creators, we were lacking controllers midfield. He's worn the armband. I think he's largely doing a really good job at it. Last season was fantastic. This season he's not been at his best, but I think he'll grow into it. He's adjusting to a new role, and, you know, ultimately he's loved by the Arsenal fans, scoring lots of important goals. Hopefully he gets back to his best, because he's a terrific player. 6 of Arsenal's last 9 Premier League games have ended 1-0. Some of them have been wins, some of them have been defeats, but tells you that we're playing on the fine margins. Arsenal's last 3 Premier League defeats have been Saturday 5:30 p.m. kickoffs away from home. Last 3, there you go. Arsenal's next away game is a Saturday, December 23rd, 5:30 kickoff, Anfield, Liverpool away. Thank you for that, Graham. But I think we can do something in that, and of course we'll be previewing it on AFTV. So if you want to be kept up to date with everything we're doing on the channel, hit the subscribe button, and you can do the notification bell as well, so you know every time we've uploaded. And of course it's Christmas, so go check out the AFTV Christmas merch. You can also download the AFTV Plus app, another way to check out the merch, check out all the Christmas stuff you might want to get, but also join us for Fan Zone, where we discuss everything after the game and throughout the week, all the big talking points. All right, everyone. Frustrating game, very frustrating game, because we probably played well enough to win it, but I think it was important we analysed why we didn't, what we got wrong, and the responsibility we have to take. Yes, officials played a part. Yes, you could say we're to a degree unlucky. Yes, maybe we could defend a little bit better, but I really think that front 5 could have done more to secure the points. Those are my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you all in a bit.